So Brandy's been making some headlines lately with the release of her new book. There's a lot of juicy details that are surfing the internet at the moment. I'm mainly going to stick to the Rodney Jerkins and Kanye West thing. I always wondered what happened between Brandy and Rodney, given that they had such great chemistry together creatively. You know, something like that goes south, you kind of wonder what really happened. She's mentioned for a long time that the reason was because Rodney gave her style away, her sound, the sound that they crafted together on the Full Moon project. You know, you can hear it in Brandy's I Thought. Go check out Deborah Cox Like It Did and Third Story Get With Me. Both songs mirror I Thought completely. So yeah, I would be bugged out in a type of way. So she helped Darkchild create the Darkchild sound. So she dives a little bit deeper into what really happened in the book. She says they were in the studio. There was a lot of buttons clicking and blah, blah, blah. They were going at it back and forth like brother and sister. Now, you know that can get intense. A lot of messy shit gets said when you have that brother-sister vibe. And he ends up saying something along the lines of, well, go do what you want to do while I go sell 5 million records with Beyonce. Now, it's not the first time that I hear that Beyonce was used as a weapon towards other R&B singers. I'm kind of like scratching my head at when did this happen? Because if it was 2002, before Afrodisiac, he didn't really work with Beyonce other than Say My Name. Maybe that was the case. But then she did return to Rodney in, I think it was 2006, 2007 when she worked on Human. And she did complain that he didn't give her his best stuff. So I don't know if it's then or after, but if it was in 2007, then that would explain the work that he did with Beyonce at the time, given Destiny's Child, Lose My Breath, and what he did for Destiny's Fulfilled. And then her solo stuff, Deja Vu and all that. So it's kind of, I'm like, where did this happen? Was it then or was it earlier before Afrodisiac? Perhaps it was like maybe 2007 that really like nailed the end of the relationship. And I do recall Rodney also saying in an interview, I think it was one with Vlad, he ends up saying that Brandy, knowing that Rodney felt like Timbaland was his rival, Brandy said that she would go work with him. And then she did. So I wonder if that comment was also said in that situation where Rodney brought up Beyonce, you know, given the fact that she said they were going back and forth like brother and sister. But yeah, and then moving on to Afrodisiac, I didn't know how messy the situation was. You know, on our end in 2003, we were receiving the little like snippets of Afrodisiac, Finally, and Who Is She to You? And then we got the street single, Turn It Up. It was like a different recording then, and then they re-recorded it for the album release. The album got pushed to 2004. Now we know why. Atlantic went behind her back and pulled in Kanye West to produce extra tracks for the album. Given, I guess, because of his popularity at the time, he was producing for everybody that year. He had like it was like the summer of Kanye West, to be honest. He was also on Janet's album and shit like that, Tomato Joe. He produced some great shit. But what she explains in a recording session, that bugs me wrong. You know, first of all, Atlantic went behind her back to do this when she had already finalized the project, had a vision for the project. There was already a first single chosen for the project, which was Black Pepper. You know, the famous song that we never heard that just magically disappeared. And they exchanged it for Kanye West to be the lead single. And she, you know, being a game player and being, you know, contractually you're assigned to this project and shit like this, you gotta follow what the head says at the label. Especially like Kanye West is hot at the time, you're gonna want a Kanye joint. But then she goes into Where You Want to Be, which is a favorite track of mine off that album. But they had some differences. I guess she wanted to do some stuff, play around with her vocals, explore it a bit. Meanwhile, he finalized the song and sent it off without her even knowing. And he ends up saying to her, "You'll be all right." Now imagine that you're an artist working on something. You're not done the song. You have ideas for the song, only for the producer to tell you, "Oh, I already sent it off. Like, you're okay. You'll be all right." That's such a slap to the face. And I don't know if they met before or whatever the case is. I still got to read the book. So forgive me if I'm missing information. I will read the book and then get back to making a new post about this. But that tells me that Kanye West wasn't actually in it to produce something specifically for Brandy. It was more like contract, just more like, okay, yeah, this project's happening. I'll produce it. I'll produce something for it. Just here's a few beats, pick one, pick two, whatever. I want my money. That's all that is. Like, and then apparently he had some involvement in the video creation of Talk About Our Love. And in return, as a favor, she was supposed to feature on his other album. So that just tells me that there was actually no like interest in creating something that would mesh and blend in with the album and to, you know, make it Brandy's best. It was just more so like, here, do this. And then in the end, you know, a lot of people say that the single was a good song. but it wasn't like a hit. And I think that's where Brandy started falling off the charts in that sense. And Afrodisiac, result, suffered. It was more so bigger on our end as Timberland fans, as a community. I find that happened a lot, where a lot of Tim's R&B got slept on the mainstream end of things, but as the community, it was big, it was heavy. Like we were anticipating this album for the longest time, then only for the first single to confuse us with a Kanye West production. We're like, what the fuck? Like, this was supposed to be Tim. And then when you think of the other songs that could have been on the album had it not been for the Kanye joints, like Sirens, Nodding Off, Adios with Sean Paul, like these are songs that we heard a few, but we still didn't get the full of Adios, and we never heard anything of Black Pepper. There was a version of the album that I think probably would have made more sense, having that Timberland was like the main producer, the big name producer on the project, and it kind of got pushed, and it's like, oh, here's this guy. I liked it. It was what it was, but I felt like it could have been better. And then Afrodisiac came out as the second single, and Who Is She to You and all that shit. But regardless, it just goes to show you like the labels and how all that shit works. It's not as organic as we think it is. We always imagined it to be something really like hands-on in the creative process with these artists and these producers, only come to find out it's just more so like, move out the way, here, take this, do it, I'm out. As a producer myself, I would never insult somebody like that, an artist especially someone like with talent like Brandy, with vocally what she can do and stuff. You kind of want to hear what else she would want to do vocally. Tell an artist you'll be all right because you didn't include them in the decision process of choosing which edit you like. I just, and that maybe he had his own vision for the song and it was met. But maybe she heard something different and wanted to explore that a little further. And I feel like as a producer, you don't rob an artist of that space because it could be better. It's just frustrating to hear what happens behind a lot of our favorites, from the Rodney stuff and to the Kanye stuff. She didn't say anything bad about Beyonce. There's a lot of stupid people in the comments, I find. Yeah, she didn't say anything bad about Beyonce. It's how people use Beyonce as a weapon to these R&B artists. Not like it creates differences between the artist and Beyonce, but it's like, I am not Beyonce. I am not going to do what Beyonce does to this song. And then I was reading in the comments, and a lot of people said that, I guess she mentioned that Rodney would play beats for her, she would like them, and he would give them to others, like Beyonce. And that would be a slap to the face too. You don't preview beats to people like that and then just give them away to others. It's a complicated situation though, because even for the producer, you want your beats to go far. But then people saying that Rodney was the hit maker and she didn't have a hit since, Brandy didn't have a hit since Rodney. She worked with Rodney again in 2007 on the Human album. Nothing really happened with that. Also, she felt like he didn't give her his best either, so that says a lot. So Rodney isn't exactly the biggest hit maker. He's had his lands for sure, but there's a lot of songs he gave to people, beats, that just didn't do anything, that were considered filler in the albums. I saw people bringing up, he's worked with Pussycat Dolls, Janet Jackson, all these big names. Yes, Feedback was a hit. Yes, When I Grow Up was a hit. But when you look at the other Darkchild productions on those albums, no one gave a fuck for them. Janet Jackson's Love, or was it Roller Coaster? And then on Pussycat Dolls, Doll Domination, which was actually Nicole's album, there was Elevator and shit like that. Like, people just tend to, it sounded not as great as you would think for a Rodney Darkchild Jerkins beat. I'm just saying, you're not guaranteed a hit when working with these people. That's just to say. And when you think of what she probably would have been doing with Darkchild around 2002, 2003, well, you got Black, I'm Good. He also did a joint for Christina Milian's album, It's About Time. I can't remember the track title, but that was the album title. Anyways, it gives you an idea what they would have probably been doing. And it's very Brandy-esque. Like, moving forward, all you hear is Brandy and Darkchild's beats and songs, and, LaShawn Daniels, rest in peace. But the structuring of the song and the design of the vocals and stuff is very Brandy. So Brandy has a big hand in the signature sound of what Darkchild is. You know the deal. Comment, like, subscribe. Until next time.